Is there hope?
All things are possible through him.
Wipe your boots, lock the external doors, silence comms.
We are live. The mandate is underway.
This is Operation Crucible. You, the listener, you've handed us the Forensic Mandate Report, Operation Pure Ore. And our objective today, it's tactical.
Completely tactical.
We're here to extract the unadulterated truth. And the only tool we're using is linguistic archaeology.
Right. No traditions, no theological debates.
None of that. We're drilling down into the bedrock of Koine Greek to expose the structural deception that's been built on top of it. This is going to require an uncompromising level of analysis.
It has to. The mandate is clear. We are, for the purposes of this analysis, declaring war on institutional lies, what the source calls the Corporation of Christianity.
And the hog pen?
And the hog pen of passive consumerism that it creates. Our tools are strictly forensic. It's Koine Greek etymology and the New Covenant scriptures. Period.
And we are on a hardened protocol.
Absolutely. A complete linguistic detox. We will never use the word accept, and we will never ever refer to the finished work of the king as a transaction.
So what are we using instead?
We're dealing in allegiance, covenant fulfillment, submission, cancellation. That's the operating vocabulary.
Understood. So this deep dive is structured around 4 vectors, each one designed to dismantle a core falsehood.
Right.
Vector A attacks passive assent. Vector B targets cowering fear. Vector C dismantles the whole emotional spectacle. And Vector D, it exposes the celebrity leadership model.
The goal here is absolute clarity, tactical knowledge for you, the operator in the field.
All right, let's initiate Vector A.
Let's do it.
So the first pillar that the forensic mandate identifies, it's this idea that salvation is, well, easy.
Low friction. That's the key. A passive exchange.
A cost-free gift, or you just have to intellectually agree to a few facts. You see it everywhere, the concept of a sinner's prayer.
And that passive assent is the ideological foundation of the hog pen. It makes salvation something you consume, not something you enlist in.
Which is where we have to go to the source code, to the Greek.
We have to. We have to look at the term pistis. Pistis. Now, today, pistis is almost always translated as faith or belief. But those English words, they're just too weak.
Too passive.
Way too passive to carry the original weight.
So walk us back. If we strip away the modern corruption, what do we find at the root of pistis?
You find something hard. Its roots are in persuasion, sure, but more than that, in binding trust, in reliability. In a classical context, pistis wasn't just a mental state, it was a quality.
Quality, like integrity.
Exactly. It meant the guaranteed trustworthiness of a covenant partner, or the unwavering conviction that allowed you to act. So when you possess pistis, you're not just thinking something. You are fundamentally bound. You are demonstrating unwavering firmness.
Unwavering firmness.
And covenant allegiance.
Okay, I can already see the conflict with the consumer model right there. Consumerism wants zero friction, easy entry. Maximum gain, minimum effort.
But allegiance, by its very definition, demands surrender, stability, and potentially the ultimate sacrifice.
So if the sources define pistis as this kind of stability, where's the best evidence for that?
The foundational evidence is in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Covenant that the apostles were steeped in. Your report points directly to Exodus 17.12.
The battle against Amalek.
The pivotal battle. Moses' hands are heavy. As long as they're up, the army wins. The text says Aaron and Hur supported his hands, making them pistis until sunset.
So pistis, there is a physical state, sustained stability under extreme pressure.
It is. It's not a feeling. It's not a quick mental nod. It's a constant tension, a sustained physical act of loyalty under command. When the source material commands us to walk by pistis, it means we have to maintain that fixed, unwavering commitment every single day.
That just completely changes the gravity of the whole concept. It moves from, I believe a fact, to I am holding the line constantly.
And that's the emphasis you see in the prophetic writings, too. It's reinforced when you look at Habakkuk 2.4 in the Septuagint. The righteous shall live by his faith, or by his pistis.
But if a pistis is steadfast loyalty,
then the passage isn't saying you live by your subjective opinion. It's saying you live by your unshakable, demonstrated loyalty. Your life itself is defined by your commitment to the covenant king.
So when the New Covenant writers, like Paul, use pistis. They're not inventing some new soft idea. They're grabbing this hardened military covenant concept of allegiance.
They're leveraging it, and we have to interpret it through that lens of active loyalty. Take Romans 1.5. Paul talks about receiving grace and apostleship.
Supplication pistis.
For the obedience of faith. I mean, that one phrase is just devastating to the consumer model. The grammar there, the genitive case, it implies that obedience is either the product of true pistis or it's the very nature of it.
So they're inseparable.
You can't have one without the other. If you have true allegiance, you have obedience. It's not optional. It's inherent.
And if pistis demands obedience, it demands action. Service, it demands enlistment under the king's authority. This just completely dismantles the cost-free gift idea.
It does. The moment you translate faith as allegiance, the gospel stops being a membership card you get in the mail.
Right.
It becomes an enlistment application that requires your total commitment.
And even the word for salvation, soteria, it fits this framework, doesn't it?
It locks in perfectly. Soteria, or deliverance, it's a broad term, but in context, it's about safety, preservation from danger, well-being.
A tactical term.
A very tactical term. It was used for the safe return of soldiers from a campaign. The key insight here for you is that this deliverance, this soteria, it isn't something you buy like an insurance policy. It is the reward for swearing fealty to the victorious king.
And for maintaining your post.
And maintaining your post on the battlefield.
Which means deliverance is contingent on demonstrated loyalty, not just a one-time intellectual nod.
That brings us to the final nail in the coffin for the commercial model, the Apostle James.
Faith without works is dead.
James 2.26. He says pistis without ergoworks, actions, is like a body without breath. It's a corpse. It's not just inactive, it's non-existent.
A consumer sits and waits to be served.
But a loyal subject, an enlisted soldier, is actively carrying out the king's mandate. The moment pistis becomes passive, it stops being pistis. It's just an opinion.
Vector A, complete. Salvation isn't passive assent, it's enlistment. It demands stability, loyalty, and obedience.
And that changes everything about how you approach the king.
Which brings us right to Vector B, addressing the cowering posture that the commercial system promotes.
The slave posture.
Exactly. If you're constantly told you're a miserable, unworthy debtor, you're conditioned to never stand up straight. Your prayer becomes this cowering supplication. Shameful begging.
And that slave posture is essential for the commercial system. It ensures perpetual emotional dependence. The goal is to keep you looking down.
But the sources have a counter-mandate for that, don't they? A very powerful one.
They do. The word is parrhesia.
Okay, let's define that in its original context. What did parrhesia mean to a Greek speaker?
Etymologically, it's so powerful. Pan, meaning all, and rhesis, meaning speech. So to utter everything. Freely, without restraint or fear.
So free speech.
But more than that, in the Hellenistic world, this was the fundamental citizen's right of free speech. It was the legal mark of a true non-slave member of the city-state, the polis. Slaves had no parrhesia, citizens did.
That's a radical redefinition of how you approach the king. It takes prayer from a slave's plea to an heir's confident address.
It's a direct command. Stop acting like a pauper outside the palace gates and start acting like an heir inside. Look at Hebrews 4.1 stems. It's a tactical command for every single soldier.
Let us come boldly to the throne of grace.
Chris metaro paresis. Let us come with parrhesia. The posture of a son who knows his inheritance, knows he has guaranteed access.
But the default programming from the commercial system says you have to beg. You're still unworthy, still a debtor.
And that is the core deception. The finished work isn't a transaction where debt just gets moved around. It's a cancellation.
The debt is zeroed out.
It's gone, which means your status is irrevocably changed from slave to son.
So where's the definitive proof that this cancellation translates directly into this unhindered access, this parrhesia?
Hebrews 10.1. It confirms it. Having boldness, having parrhesia to enter the holy places. Because the debt is canceled, the barrier is gone. Access is immediate, irrevocable. You don't ask for permission to speak, you have the right to speak.
The challenge, I think, for anyone conditioned by the hog pen is psychological. How do you go from feeling perpetually unworthy to suddenly exercising this right? Doesn't it feel arrogant?
That's the key. Parrhesia isn't self-generated arrogance, it's derived authority. You're not coming in based on your own merit. You're relying entirely on the king's merit and the cancellation he executed.
So it's a command to act in line with your new legal status, not your old feelings.
And the source material contrasts this legitimate boldness with the spirit of fear or delias, cowardice.
2 Timothy 1.7.
A direct countercommand against retreat. God gave no spirit of cowardice, delias, but power, love, and discipline. Delias is that spirit of timidity that makes you shrink back. If you operate in parrhesia, you operate in power. If you operate in shame, you operate in delias. They are mutually exclusive.
And the final confirmation that the slave mentality is gone is sonship.
Absolutely. Romans 8.15 clarifies this placement as a son, or huiothesios. It says, we didn't receive a spirit of bondage, doulios, that leads back into fear, but the spirit of being placed as a son, crying, Abba, Father. Parrhesia is the legal and audible proof of that sonship.
So the commercial system's fear-mongering is just a tool of bondage. It keeps the audience dependent.
And parrhesia shatters that dependency. The moment you realize the debt is canceled, you don't need the celebrity leader or the emotional spectacle as an intermediary. You have direct access.
Vector B achieved. The posture has shifted from cowering slave to speaking son. Now let's pivot to Vector C, to the physical requirements of submission.
Silencing the concert.
Exactly. We're aiming at the worship industry, this multi-billion-dollar complex that's turned submission into a consumer experience.
Staging, lights, emotional manipulation, a spiritual dopamine loop for passive consumption.
They call it worship, but the mandate calls it counterfeit emotionalism.
The commercial lie is that worship equals sensory experience. It externalizes an internal mandate. True spiritual submission, according to the sources, is defined by the term proskuneo. Proskuneo.
Which means what?
Total physical prostrate submission, the exact opposite of a feel-good concert.
Okay, let's break down the physical reality in that word. The commercial model is about raising hands. What does proskuneo tell us about lowering the body?
It's intensely physical and humbling. It's from pros, toward, and kuneo, to kiss. It literally means to kiss toward, specifically to kiss the grand or the hand of a superior.
An act of homage.
A physical act of total deference and surrender. It's about physically placing yourself beneath the king's authority.
So if I'm truly doing proskuneo, I'm not enjoying a musical performance. I'm either physically or internally kissing the dirt at the king's feet.
That's the mandatory reality, and it leaves no room for ego or platform or performance. The sources give us this profound illustration in Revelation 4-point round, the 24 elders falling down, worshiping.
And not just falling, they're casting their crowns.
That action is the core of proskuneo. It is utter abasement, total divestment of personal authority and glory. A crown is your achievement, your status. To cast it at the king's feet is to say, everything I am, everything I've done, it is subservient to you.
That is the complete opposite of the celebrity performance model.
And this submission has to be authentic. Which brings us to the counter-mandate in John 4.24. The king sets the non-negotiable requirement.
God is spirit, and worshipers must proskuneo in spirit and truth.
Exactly, in spirit and truth.
Why does that demolish the need for a stage?
Because spirit and truth are internal. They are intellectual, relational. They are completely independent of sensory props, staged lighting, specific musical keys, or the energy of a big audience. True proskuneo is an act of the will, a deliberate decision to surrender in truth, regardless of how you feel.
Let's talk about the feeling. The critique calls the commercial system a dopamine loop. Why is that reliance on sensory input so bad for genuine proskuneo?
Because it's chemical dependency. The human brain releases dopamine and endorphins in response to specific sensory inputs, repetitive rhythms, volume, mass emotional synchronization. The worship industry intentionally engineers these environments to create a predictable emotional high.
This is consumption, not submission.
Precisely. If you need that specific sensory input to engage in proskuneo, you're consuming a product, not submitting to the king. The commercial model has substituted radical internal surrender with a counterfeit emotionalism.
True submission needs no stage.
It needs no audience.
Oh.
And it certainly needs no CEO of production to manufacture the feeling.
Vector C, complete. The concert is silenced. Worship is returned to prostrate submission, which leads us to the leadership that promotes this whole spectacle. Vector D,
firing the CEO.
The commercial system elevates leaders as charismatic, stage-performing celebrities. They're driven by commerce, by platform, by book sales. They are the face of the corporation.
Our objective is to fire that celebrity model and reestablish leadership as proven maturity and sacrificial guardianship. And we do that with two words, presbyteros and poimen.
Let's start with presbyteros. What does that word signify? when you strip away the modern layers?
Presbyteros etymologically just means older or elder. It signifies seasoned maturity, the kind of proven stability and wisdom you get over time. It prioritizes verified character over youth or magnetism or public speaking.
And the commercial system measures leadership by public platform. But the sources define maturity by private integrity.
Absolutely. The mandate points us to Titus 1.56. It details the non-negotiable qualifications. Appoint elders, presbyteros. In every city, they must be blameless, husband of one wife. But listen to the immediate proof of maturity.
Faithful children not accused of dissipation or rebellion.
That's it. That is the key insight that demolishes the celebrity model. Leadership is established first and foremost through household dominion, the oikos, the family unit.
The home is the crucible.
It is. You cannot claim to lead the king's household, the ecclesia, if you cannot govern your own family effectively. If your home is in chaos, if your children are in rebellion, you are disqualified. Period.
That is a brutal filter for modern leadership. It makes oratory, charisma, a huge platform, totally irrelevant.
The presbyteros is judged by the maturity and submission in his oikos. If that foundation is unstable, the man is not qualified. This immediately fires almost every celebrity leader whose focus is the global platform instead of the integrity of his own home.
So once that foundation of maturity, presbyteros, is established, the sources add the functional definition, the poimen.
Poimen means shepherd. It's about function, not title. Herding, care, protection. And the new covenant gives us the perfect contrast to expose the fraud.
The good shepherd versus the hireling in John 10.
The poimen is defined by his willingness to pay the ultimate cost. He lays down his life for the sheep. This isn't just management, it's self-sacrificial guardianship. He bleeds for the flock.
His reward is the flock's well-being, not a paycheck.
Exactly. And the indictment of the celebrity leader is right there in the description of the misthoutos, the hireling.
He flees.
The hireling flees when danger comes because he cares nothing for the sheep. He's only there for the wage, the misthoutos. He prioritizes his own preservation, his platform, his comfort over the flock's safety.
It sounds just like the condemnation in the Old Covenant.
It's the same indictment, Ezekiel 34 in the Septuagint. Woe to shepherds feeding themselves, not the flock. They scatter and devour the sheep while enriching themselves. The moment a leader starts feeding himself off the resources of the flock, he ceases to be a poimen. He is a misthoutos.
So the sources are brutal. True leadership is sacrificial guardianship, poimen, built on proven integrity in the home, presbyteros.
Which condemns the hireling celebrity as a self-feeder. They prioritize charisma over maturity and sacrifice.
Victor D. complete. The celebrity CEO is fired.
And the standard for true leadership is reestablished.
So, mission parameters met. We've dismantled the 4 foundational pillars of the commercial system. We destroyed the consumer model with pistis. We lifted the slave's head with parrhesia. We silenced the concert with proskuneo. And we fired the celebrity CEO with presbyteros and poimen.
And the tactical knowledge you now possess, that pistis is active allegiance, that parrhesia is a guaranteed right, it demands a fundamental shift in your identity, in your operation. You have to transition from a passive consumer to an aligned soldier and a recognized son.
So if the celebrity leaders are fired and the whole institutional system is a fraud, where does your primary allegiance and responsibility go?
The power structure has to decentralize. It has to localize. The focus returns entirely to the primary unit of maturity and submission and governance, the oikos, the household.
The oikos is the non-negotiable starting point.
It is. The centralized power of the corporation is illegitimate. The true mandate returns to that foundational, stable unit. Allegiance must be invested there first.
So the most important work, the most critical investment, happens in the place where true pistis is forged, where maturity is proven.
You have to physically and financially detach from the fraud and redirect those resources to the core unit. The time, the energy, the money spent consuming spectacles and supporting hirelings. It has to be channeled into building the strength and integrity of your own household.
So the final command to action from the source material is clear. Stop funding the fraud. Stop investing your resources, your time, and your allegiance into systems built on passive consumption and cowering fear.
Instead, you invest your primary resources and allegiance into building the genuine structure of the oikos, the foundational unit where pistis becomes visible, where parrhesia is practiced by heirs, and where total proskuneo is the daily reality of submission. Independent of any spectacle or corporate demand, the debt is paid. The world is yours.
Then claim it. Go forth and occupy.
The debt is paid. The world is yours.
Then claim it. Go forth and occupy.